Welcome to all. Let us continue with the session. So now we will see the controlling access to class members. So what are the controls available for the class members to get accessed? Okay, so access level modifiers determine whether the classes can use a particular field or invoke a particular method. So it is a kind of security provided to the class, because class will be having its own data members and member functions. And once you create the object to a particular class, definitely that class will have the capacity to the members which are present in the class will be having the capacity to store some fresh data as well. So that is the reason why. So it also provides a particular security if we introduce access specifiers, or whatever the access you are going to give to that particular class. So at the top level, so we have public or package private. So it is a it is not an explicit modifier, just we have to present it. So that is the reason why for main method and all we are passing public as an access specifier. So at the member level we have three again. It's public, private, protected, or package private. So package private means so when you are importing some packages, so those who have attended the lab, I have already said what are packages and how exactly they are involved in all the programming things. Okay, next class may be declared with a modifier public. So in which case that class is visible to all classes everywhere. So once it is given as a public, then that particular thing will be available to almost everywhere. Okay, so if a class has no modifier, the default also known as package private, so it is visible only within its own package. Okay, so if you are not passing something, so it will be by default it will be like a package private. So it is visible only within its own package. So if it is not written as a public, then rest of the package or outside the package cannot be accessed. Okay, that particular class cannot be accessed. At the member level, you can also use public modifier or no modifier, just as with the top level classes. Okay, and with the same meaning, the meaning will not be changed. For members, there are two additional access modifiers, private and protected, that is available mainly for members. Okay, so the private modifier specifies that the member can only be accessed in its own class. So whenever you are going for a private member or private variable, it can be accessed only within that particular class, not outside the class. The protected modifiers specifies that a member can only be accessed within its own package, and in addition by the subclass of its class in another package. So whenever you are going for protected, so whatever the accessibility or whatever the variables available inside the class can be accessed within its package, entire package. And if you are extending that particular class as a subclass for some other package, that also can be accessed. That particular subclass of the members also can be accessed, or they will be having the capacity to access the protected members of a particular class. So this is the actual concept. It is not a new concept. Here in C++ also you have gone for this access specifier concept. It is an extended version, I can say, because we have the concept of package private. So it is ultimately a kind of package, isn't it? Whenever you are writing some program, ultimately you can consider it as a particular package. Now I will show you. So yeah, so this picture will give a rough idea of access levels. Okay, so you have mainly four modifiers here: public, protected, and if no modifier, then private. So if for a class, so public is yes, and package also, subclass also, and for the entire world, if it is a public, then it can be accessed. For protected, so for class also it is possible, for packages, for subclass also it is possible, for outside thing it cannot be accessed. So outside means if you don't have this subclass or a derived class, then you cannot access the protected members. So just if you have separate classes or separate concepts where if you are trying to access that particular protected members, it is not possible, it is not allowed. Now no modifier, so for if no modifiers are nothing but package private, isn't it? So they can be accessed by class and the package, but not from the subclass and the world. Okay, and for private it is obvious, only class members or only inside the class, actually only inside the class you can access those members, not from package, not from a subclass, and not from outside world, or some other classes. You cannot just access it. This is a normal access levels. You are not having anything special here. Okay, now access modifiers. So you have some access modifiers here. So they have given some standard set of sentences. So for private, the access level of a private modifier is only within the class. It cannot be accessed from the outside class. So if someone asks what is private, so you should be able to say this. Next, for default, the access level of the default modifier is only within the package. When you have, it is not just about the class. For the entire package, I'm saying it is entire for the entire program, whole program. Okay, so it cannot be accessed from outside the package, and if you do not specify any access level, it will be the default one. So default package, or default modifier will be set if you are not giving any access specifier for a particular class. Next, for protected, the access level of the protected modifier is within the package and outside the package through child classes or derived classes or subclasses, I can say like that. So if you are deriving a particular class from another class, then the top level class, if any protected members are present in the top level class, that members can be accessed from the new derived class. Okay, or I can say subclass also, I can say child class also. Okay, so the same concept continues. If you do not make a child class, it cannot be accessed from the outside the package. So if you are not making it as a child class, or if you are not deriving the particular class as a root class, or if you are not giving that particular functionality to that particular thing, then you will not be able to access the protected members. Okay, now for public, the access level of the public modifier is everywhere. It can be accessed from within the class, outside the class, within the package, and outside the package. So when you are going for public, that means the things can be accessed from anywhere, but make sure that the private data or any important data should not be given to the public. So if you want to maintain some privacy, definitely you have to choose for either protected or private. Okay, so these are the some of the concepts. Now you have one more concept called passing object and returning object from the method. So in the previous thing, you have seen how to pass the value, isn't it? Using the methods, how to pass the value, you have seen in the previous video. But now how to pass the entire object, or how to get the object back, now we can see those concepts. Okay, so when we pass a primitive type to a method, it is passed by value. When you are actually passing the primitive type to a particular method, it is just a value you are passing by a value. But when you pass an object to a particular method, the situation changes dramatically. Okay, so because objects are passed by what is effectively called call by reference, so you have the concept of call by reference, isn't it? So in the same fashion you are actually working on here. Okay, next, Java does this interesting thing that's a sort of a hybrid between pass by value and pass by reference. So when you go for in a particular Java, it is something like it is a combination of both pass by value and pass by reference. Don't get confused. These are the theoretical concepts, but when you see the code, you get the better picture. Basically, a parameter cannot be changed by the function, but the function can ask the parameter to change itself via calling some method within it. So you can make it as a parameter concept. So in the previous, so I don't know how many of you watched that. So I have sent one link, so saying that the contact class example. So in the group I have sent, there I have given one example how to send a parameter as a separate object or object creation inside the braces or in the brackets. So I have shown that in that particular example. The same concept they are trying to say here. So you can pass the entire object to a particular method also. That is the thing. Now, while creating a variable of a particular class, we only create a reference to an object. Thus, we can pass this reference to a method. The parameter that receives it will refer to the same object as that referred to by the arguments. Okay, now this effectively means that objects act as if they are passed to a method by use of call by reference, because you are passing an object means you are actually passing the reference, isn't it? So reference means object will be if you are considering it as a physical entity, you are just saying that you have to refer that particular object for the transfer of data. So it is a kind of thing. Okay, next, changes to the object inside the method do reflect in the object used in an argument. So these are the some theoretical concept. We directly jump to the example. So this example give the better picture to you. Okay, now passing the object. So this is the program for passing the object. So you have one class name is object pass demo. Okay, inside the class you have two members, A and B, which is of type integer. Okay, next, inside that, after that, what you have one constructor, isn't it? Because it doesn't have any return type, it is just it is same as a class name. So you have one constructor, it will take two parameters. What are the parameters? I and j, which is of type integer. Now why this particular constructor is taking the parameter? That directly means from main method you have sent some value to this constructor for the assignment, isn't it? You have to assign that I and j value to A and B. So when you create the object, definitely you would have sent some value. So here, see, you can see inside the main method you have new object demo 100, 22. So 100 will sit in I and 22 will sit in J. The same thing will be copied to A and B. A equal to I means 100 will sit in A and 22 will sit in B. So it is just for assignment. So constructor, it is one of the usage of constructor, isn't it? So you are just assigning it. Next, you have one more method here. So boolean space equal to, the name of the method is equal to, the return type is boolean here. It is not character int or float. It is just a boolean. That means this particular method will return either true or false, isn't it? Boolean is nothing but true or false. Okay, now this method will take one object, isn't it? See, the name of the class is given here. See, object pass demo and space O. So O means it is nothing but a reference of the object. So this O will hold the reference of the actual object, whatever the object you are passing. Okay, now it will keep the reference. Now what you are doing, what you are going to do inside the equal to method, you are returning and you are checking also. So O dot A equal to A and O dot B equal to B. What is the meaning? So A and B are nothing but the simple right hand side, whatever the A and B you are seeing, it is just the members of object pass demo class. Now what is O dot A and O dot B? When you create the object, whatever the object you are passing from your main method, whatever the value that object is holding within A and B, that value will be compared here. It is just the entire program is to compare whether the values are same or not, equal or not. So you can directly come to main method, driver class or driver code, you can see. So the public class test, the file name should be named as test. Then you have inside the public class you have main method. Inside the main method, what you have? Inside the main method you are creating three objects. Okay, now object 1 will have separate set of A and B, object 2 will have separate set of A and B, object 3 also will have separate set of A and B. So if you are assigning some value using object 1, OB1, then OB1 of A will be different from OB2 of A. And that will be different from OB3 of A, because you are passing different values. Oh, sorry, OB1 and OB2 you are passing the same value. So A and B will have same copy of data, but OB3 will have -1 and -1, isn't it? So different data, isn't it? So we will see how exactly we can work on it. So when you create a particular object for a class, that's here, see, object pass demo is nothing but a class. OB1 is an object. New operator you are using here, object pass demo you are creating. So when I already said, whenever you are creating an object, constructor will be called. So here it is nothing but parameterized, isn't it? You are sending the parameter to that constructor. You are passing 100 and 22. The same thing will sit in I and J. Here, see, top, you can see top there, object pass demo of int I comma int j. The in I 100 will sit, in j 22 will sit. Why? Because when you created the object, you have passed the value to the constructor. So by default I and j will have the value 100 and 22. The same will be copied to A and B of object 1. Now for object 2 also you are passing the same data. So again it will I will be 100, j will be 22. The same will be copied to a and b. Now OB2, object 2 of A and B will have 122. But when you create OB3, object 3, you are passing -1 and -1. So int I will be -1, int j will be -1. The same value will sit in A and B of object 3. Okay, now object 1 and object 2 will have same values in A and B, isn't it? But object 3 will have separate value, separate data. Now what you are going to do in the next step, you are using system.out.println ob1 equal to ob2. You are checking whether it is same or not. How? Plus ob1 dot equals method equal to method, and you are passing ob2. Now what happens here? Using object 1. So whenever I say using object 1, what happens? Object 1, what are the values in A and B of object 1? It is 122. Now equal to method, you are invoking equal to method and you are passing OB2, object 2 you are passing. That means now here see, you can see boolean equal to that object pass demo. O, you have O, that O will have the reference of OB2. You are not it is not like entire thing will be passed. O will hold the reference of OB2. Now what are the values available in OB2 for A and B? Again it is 122, isn't it? When you create the object, you pass the same value. So OB2 also will have 122. So whether it is equal or not, now because see O dot A means it is OB2 of A. Equal to A means it's obviously the value whatever you have stored in A and B. It is a object 1's value. Now what is O dot B? It is value of B which is referred by object 2, OB2. Why? Because you passed the entire object to a particular thing, isn't it? To the equal to method. Now O will have the reference of object 2, OB2. Now OB2 will have the value 122 again. So it will be same. So true and true is true, so it will return value true because both the values are same, 100 equal to 100 and 22 equal to 22. But the scenario changes when you go for the last line. See, OB1 equal to OB3, whether it is true or not. What you are going to do? You are trying to call equal to method using OB1. Now OB1 is having the value 122, isn't it? OB1 of A will have 100, OB1 of B will have 22. Using that you are calling equal to method. Now equal to method, what you are passing? You are passing OB3. Now what is the value of A for OB3? It is -1. What is the value of B for OB3? It is again -1. So now the O value, now O reference here in boolean equal to method, that object pass demo, O will have the reference of object 3 in this particular iteration, in this particular step. Now definitely O will have the value for A is -1. Now O dot B will be again -1. Why? Because you passed object 3 to equal to method, isn't it? Now it will check whether O dot A is nothing but -1 equal to 100. How you got 100 there? Because you are calling equal to method using OB1 object. OB1 object will have 122. By default that A and B will have 122. Okay, so it is implicit value passing from main method to that method which is available inside the class. Okay, so -1 equal to 100, no. So -1 equal to 22, no. So false you are getting, so it will return false itself. So ultimate the output will be OB1 equal to OB2 true and OB1 equal to OB3 false. You are going to get that particular output. So if you have any doubt, you can execute this program. I already executed this program, then only I put this particular program to the slide. So you can check here. Okay, you can check in your system. Now how to get the object, how to return the object, another example. You can see the another example. So you have one class called sample. Inside the class you have one private member. So that means value variable can be accessed only within sample. that class itself, because it is a private member. So private members can be accessed only within the class, isn't it? So private int value. Next, after that, what you have one constructor, because sample, it has the same name as the class name, isn't it? So you have one constructor. So inside the constructor it is taking one value, integer value, because int I is nothing but the parameter, isn't it? Now whenever you see such kind of code, by default you should think that from main method someone has passed some integer value, the same value will sit in int I. That is the meaning. Okay, using that I, you are going to assign value variable. Now you have one more constructor, you have it is not a constructor, it is a method. Make twice is a method of type what? Of type sample. Why? Because you are passing you are returning a particular object to the calling method of type what? Sample. Why? Because I already said class is nothing but a user defined data type, isn't it? So this is how it works. It is not taking any integer, float, boolean, nothing like that. It will take a particular this method will return an entire object of type sample. So the calling method will have the object itself, that object of type or reference of type sample class. Okay, next you have one more method, that is just a method, void show. It is a method, system.out.println value will be shown. Okay, now you come to main method. So public class return demo, inside that you have main method. Inside that you are creating two objects. Okay, for sample class. Now first line you can see sample space obj1 equal to new sample of 10. Now what happens when this object is being created? The constructor of sample class will be called. Now 10 will be passed to int I, whatever the thing you have seen here. So I will be having the value 10. The same 10 will sit in value, because inside that you have written the code value equal to I. So 10 will sit in value variable. Okay, now after that you have one dummy reference for sample, isn't it? So sample, obj2, you are creating one more object, reference object. Okay, now what you are going to do, using object 2, what you are going to do, obj2 equal to obj1 dot make twice. What is happening here? What exactly it is happening here? So it is what is the thing you are doing here? Using object 2, you are trying to call make twice method with the help of object 1. How? So obj1 dot make twice means what is by default, what are the values being passed? The 10 will be passed, isn't it? Because using obj1 you assigned 10 to value. Correct? So obj1 will have the value 10. The same 10, using that 10 you are going to call make twice method. Now what make twice will do? Make twice will do here. See, you are seeing that method will be called. Now inside the method what happens? So sample temp, you are creating one more object of sample class. Now temp equal to new sample of value into 2. What is actually happening here? Now what you are going to do, inside the make twice method you are creating one more object of class sample, and you are calling the constructor of sample. You are passing what? Value into 2. What was the value? 10. 10 into 2, 20. That 20 will be passed to this constructor. Sorry, yeah, okay, just a moment. Yes, this constructor. Now what happens? Now int I will be having the value 20. Why? Because in the make twice method, inside the make twice, what you are going to do? New sample of value into 2. So what was the value? By default value 10. Why? Because obj1, using object 1 you called make twice method. So obj1 will implicitly take the value 10 to the make twice method. So value will be having the value 10. So 10 into 20, 20 will be passed to the constructor. So now sample of int I will have the value 20. The same 20 will be assigned to value. Okay. Now after that what you are going to do? Now you are returning temp. Now what is returning temp means? Temp is an object, isn't it? Object of type what? Object of type sample. That is a class, isn't it? So that means all three objects are having the same data type, that is nothing but sample. sample class, isn't it? That data type, user defined data type. So that is the reason why this object2 where here, so in the last but not the least, that line obj2, that obj2 will have the value of temp. Now what temp will bring? Temp will bring the value 20. Why? Because temp will be having, whenever you created the object, temp will be referring to a particular value variable which is having the value 20. Now temp will bring value 20. The same value will be sit in obj2. Okay, now obj2 will call show method. So that means by default obj2 will pass the value 20 to show method. Now show method, what show method will do? Show method will directly print the value of value variable. So ultimately you are going to get the output as 20. Okay, I request you to execute this program. If you have any doubt, you can ask me, or if you want a separate execution video, I can make I can send. So in the next contact class, you can say if there are any issues. But I request everyone to execute this program. This is how returning of the object will work. Okay, so the next thing is overloading, method overloading. So this is the same concept of C++. So what you mean by method overloading? When you have a method with the same name, isn't it? When you have more than one method with the same name. That is the concept of method overloading, isn't it? So in Java also you have the same concept. So we will see what is it. So if a class has multiple methods having same name but different parameters, it is known as method overloading. So parameters, if the parameters are different, so then it is a method overloading, but the method name should be same. If we have to perform only one operation having same name of the methods, increases the readability of the program. So with the same name you can perform so many tasks. So if you have the method called draw, then you can, for drawing the triangle, you can go for drawing the rectangle, or if you can go for the drawing the square, etc, etc. So you are using only one method, but the different parameters will be different, because if you want to pass some different values, then definitely you need separate parameters. So this kind of example can be said as can be referred to referred for method overloading. Okay. Now suppose you have to perform addition of the given numbers, but there can be any number of arguments. If you write the method such as int, okay, for 2 parameters, and for b int, so 3 parameters, it may be difficult for you as well as for other programmers to understand the behavior of the method because of its name differs. So this is one of the point they just wanted to say. If the name differs, then it will be a problem. But if you are using the same name with the different parameters, then no one will be having the ambiguity, isn't it? The programmer also will not be having the ambiguity, or the person who is going to read it or to understand the program, he also will not be having the problem to understand it. That is the thing. Next advantage of method overloading is, so method overloading increases the readability of the program. That is one of the advantage. Next, different ways of overloading method. So you have two main thing. One is by changing the number of argument, and another one is by changing the data type. So you can either change the number of arguments to a particular method, or you can just change the data type of the method. That also possible. Now I have given 2 examples here. You can just concentrate on the first example. So by changing the number of arguments, if that is the case, how exactly you can write a program. So you have one class called adder. Inside that you have methods, 2 methods, static int add and static int add again. Okay, but in one method you are taking only 2 parameters. You are having only two parameters, a and b, and for second add method you have 3 parameters, a and b and c. Okay, now both the method, what it will do, it will just add 2 numbers and it will return the value to the calling method. Now just concentrate on the main method. So class test overloading 1. Inside that you have main method. Inside that what you are going to do, system.out.println, you are calling add method using the class name. So adder dot add 11, So here you are not creating any object to a particular class. You are just using the class name followed by the method name using dot operator. That also possible, because every time you don't need to create the object. If you know the class name, using the dot operator you can call the method directly. Okay, so what you are going to do here, you adder dot add of 11 comma 11. So what ultimately you are going to do, you are passing two values to a particular add method. By default, the program will see how many parameters are there for the calling method. If it is 2, the first add method will be invoked. If the parameters are 3, the second add method will be invoked. If you are passing 4 parameter, what happens? If you're passing using add method, if you're passing 4 parameters, definitely it will throw an error, because it will say that the method with the add name the method with the name add will not take 4 parameters, or you did not define a 4 parameter one. The method with the add, the name add with a particular 4 parameters. It will say that such kind of definition of particular method is not available in the program. Such kind of error, some such kind of errors will be shown to your to the end user. So that is the thing. So this is how you can do with the number of arguments. Okay, if you are changing the number of arguments, so output will be 22 and 33 based on the calculation. But when you are changing the type of data type, how it will be, okay, how it can be, we can see like this. So class adder, again same thing. So you have static int add, so that add will take 2 parameters a and b of type integer. But for second add, what happens? For second add, it is not taking the integer data type, it is taking double data type with the 2 parameters itself, a and b again. But first add method will take 2 parameters of type integer. Now second add method will take the parameters with the type double. So that means both are same name, both having the same name, both having the same parameters, but different data type. So that is not similar, not same, isn't it? They are unique. Now rest of the things are same. You are having one class, inside the class you have main method, inside the main method you have 2 print statements. Again you are calling add methods using class name, and you are passing the value, but for the second value you are passing value with the floating point, or dot, or a double value. So you are getting the same thing. It will be returned for the first 11. So first add method will be invoked and it will return 11 plus 11. So 22 output. For the second method, what you are going to do, you are passing 12 plus 3 and 12 plus 3. It is nothing but 24 plus 9. So the value will be printed. So this is how the data type with the different data type and different arguments will work. So this is the concept of method overloading. Okay, so that is the concept which I just wanted to say. Just a moment. So this is the example for overloading, method overloading. So if you have the concept of executing these things, you can do it. So if you have the system, try to run this program, or even in online also you can execute this program. But try to execute and see the difference, and you will get the same output also. No need to worry. Okay, so these are the example for number of method overloading with the by changing number of arguments, as well as by changing the data type in the arguments. That also possible. Okay, now the next concept is overloading constructors. Now the previous concept was overloading methods. Now how to overload constructors. Okay, now when constructors are invoked, when you create an object, isn't it? So even constructor will take parameters, isn't it? So it is same as method, but it won't have any return type, because by default, I already said in the previous some videos, I already said what is a default return type of a particular constructor. It is of same type. The class name itself, the class, the whatever the class you are creating, the same type will be returned. So by default, it will have the return type. Okay, now like methods, constructors also can be overloaded. Next, constructor overloading is a concept of having more than one constructor with a different parameter list in such a way that each constructor performs different tasks. The same concept or the statement will remain same. You are not changing anything, but here you are not using any method. It is nothing but you are just using the constructor. That's it. So you can see that image. I have taken this image from internet. You can see here some images are available here. So what is it? So it is, a public class demo. You have one class, so the same demo you have 3 times without return type. That means it is a constructor, isn't it? First one is a default constructor. It won't take any parameter, and second constructor will take one parameter of type string. The third constructor will take one parameter with the integer value, and these 3 constructor can perform 3 different tasks. So that is the concept of overloading the constructor. It is not a method, it is not a function or a method, it is constructor. You are just overloading constructor itself for different task. So let us see one example here. Okay, now you have one class called box, which has 3 variables: width, height, and depth. Okay, now first constructor, what it will do? So it will take 3 parameters w, h, and d of type double. Now what it will do? So it will assign, w will be assigned to width, h, whatever the value you are passing from main method, that will sit in w, h, and d. The h will be assigned to height and d will be assigned to depth. That is one constructor. What is the second constructor? This second constructor, it is just box. You are not taking any parameters here. Now what you are going to do? Width equal to height equal to depth equal to 0. That means you are assigning 0 to width, height, and depth using second constructor. The third constructor, what it will do? It will take one parameter of type double with the variable name, or the name is length. Now what it will do? That value, whatever the value sit in len, it will be initialized to width, height, and depth simultaneously. Now what the last method will do? It is not a constructor. You have only 3 constructor here. One constructor will take 3 parameters, another constructor will not take any parameters, the third constructor will take 1 parameter, and you have one more method called volume of type double. That means this volume method will return a particular value of type double. That is the meaning. Okay, now what it will do? Inside the volume, what you are going to do? You are returning width into height into depth. Whatever the value you are, after calculating whatever the value you get, it will be returned to the calling method. Now directly you can come to main method here. See, you can concentrate on main method. Now public class test, inside the test method you have main method. Inside the class test you have main method. Inside the main method what you are going to do? You are going to create 3 objects. My box 1, my box 2, my cube. 3 names will be given here. The name of the objects, what are the name of the object? My box 1, my box 2, and my cube. Now for the first object creation, what you are going to do? You are going to pass 3 values: 10, 20, and 15 inside the brackets. Now where this 10, 20, and 15 will sit? Now whenever you create this object, whenever you create this object, you are going to invoke this particular constructor box, which will take 3 parameters. Now 10 will sit in w, 20 will sit in h, and 15 will sit in d. The same 10, 20, and 15 will be assigned to width, height, and depth. Why? Because in the first object you are passing 10, 20, and 15 for my box 1. Now my box 1 will have the copy of 10, 20, and 15 for height, width, and depth. Fine. Next, after that, what you are going to do? You are using second object. You are creating second object, my box 2 equal to new box. You are not passing anything. What happens? You are calling the default constructor, that is nothing but box, which will take no parameter. What happens inside the box constructor? You are assigning 0 to width, height, and depth. Now my box 2 will have the values for height, depth, and width is 0. So using my box 2, if you are calling something, by default you are passing height equal to 0, width equal to 0, and depth equal to 0. Now what you are doing for my cube? You are creating one object called my cube, and you are passing value 7 to box constructor. Which constructor will be called? The last constructor, box of double len. That will be called. Why? Because this particular constructor will take 1 parameter. So it doesn't make any sense to call the constructor with the 3 values or constructor with the no values. Here you have one more constructor which will take only 1 value. So that constructor will be invoked. Now len value will be 7 because you are passing from the main method, isn't it? So len value will be 7. The same 7 will be sitting in width, height, and depth because you are assigning, isn't it? You can see there width equal to height equal to depth equal to len, length. The 7 will sit in width also, in width, height and depth. In 3 variables will have the value, same value 7. Okay. Now after that, what you are going to do? You are going to no, you have one more variable called VOL of type double. Now using that VOL, what you are going to call? You are going to call volume method using myBox1. Okay. Now what volume method will do? Now tell me what myBox1 will hold. So it will hold 10, 20 and 15. Okay, the 10, 20 and 15 will be implicitly passed to volume method. Now volume method will return 10 into 20 into 15, whatever the value you are getting, maybe 3000 I guess. That 3000 will be returned to VOL, and the same VOL will be printed using system.out.println. That is the first part. Now second part, using myBox2 you are calling volume method. Now what myBox2 will have? myBox2 will have 0 value because you did not pass any value. So default constructor was called. Inside the default constructor you just assigned 0 values to 3 variables. The same will be here. So myBox2 dot volume will have the value of len will be 0. The same thing will be returned to VOL. So myBox2 is volume of myBox2, it should print 0. The third thing is cube. Now my cube will have the value 7, isn't it? Because height, depth and width, that value will be 7. So mycube dot volume, mycube dot volume will pass 7 for height, 7 for depth and 7 for width. The same value will be passed to volume method, and it will return 7 into 7 into 7, whatever the value you get. So that value will be returned to the main method. So VOL will have the that value, and the same value will be printed. The volume of my cube is the 7 into 7 into 7. That value will be printed. So this is how you can overload the constructor. I request you to execute this program also. If you get any error, you can get back to me, or you can send the screenshot. I will sort it out. So these are some of the concepts I just wanted to explain in this particular video. So I request everyone to execute these programs, otherwise you will definitely forget. Okay, so if you have any doubt, you can contact me. Okay, thanks for watching.